Did you know that you've had a Swiss Army knife in your back pocket this whole time and you probably had no idea? What? What am I even talking about? Well, my beautiful friend, I'm about to tell you about the Swiss Army knife, or the tool of all tools that you've had this whole time. You've been using this whole time. Probably not aware of it, but now you will be. Welcome back to the Purposeful Powerhouse podcast. And this week, we are talking about the tool of all tools, the foundation and the fundamental essence of life. Want to guess what it is? You probably know. Yes, the breath. Holy moly, where would we be without it? I don't know. In another universe? Who knows, right? We could speculate on that all day long. But here's what the yogis knew. Here's what so many beautiful cultures around the world revere and respect and practice. Here's what many different practices around the world know, that your breath is so impactful as a tool of life, vital, of course, but it can be used in so many different ways. It's almost undescribable. But the thing is, it's just happening without you even realizing it. Thank you very much to the amazing design of your body and your nervous system. But there's a belief in the yoga practice that each person is given a certain number of breaths for the duration of their life, and their life is measured in those number of breaths, and therefore the quality of their life is measured in the quality of their breath. So if you think about it, it's not a weird or far out there concept. The average adult breathes about 12 to 20 breaths per minute. So depending on how many breaths they breathe in that minute will impact the number of breaths per hour, day, week, et cetera, over the course of their lifetime. So that's interesting, right? And so the interesting thing about this is if you intentionally slow down your breath, in theory, you can slow down your life. And here's the cool thing. Science agrees with that too. The deeper you breathe, the more regulated and centered you become, because when you breathe slow, deep breaths, you signal safety to your body by way of your vagus nerve. Because your vagus nerve is the wandering nerve. That's where, the word vagabond comes from, is the root of the vagus nerve, of that wandering essence throughout the entire body. Your vagus nerve is the main highway of your nervous system, and it interacts, of course, with your brain, but with every one of your vital organs and many of your tissues throughout your entire body. But here's the interesting thing. The only one that you have direct control over is, you guessed it, you're so smart, your lungs, right? We cannot control the rhythm of our heartbeat consciously, but we can consciously begin to slow down your breath. And in doing so, you begin to impact your heart rate rhythm. And when your breath begins to slow down and you breathe in that nice, easy way that you probably breathe when you're sleeping, or when you're doing your yoga, or when you're really relaxed, or when you were a baby, when we breathe in that slow, spacious way, it starts to slow everything down. So when we breathe in a more deep diaphragmatic way, so let's do it now, because hello, we probably could use a little deep breath here. Place your hands on your body, one hand on your belly, one hand on your chest. And if it's safe to do so, close your eyes. If it's not, keep them open and just breathe into your belly. And then breathe out. Oh, that's so nice. Do it again. One more time. So what happens, or what's beginning to happen, is as you affect the rhythm of your breath, your blood pressure starts to slow down, your heart rate rhythm starts to slow down and become more consistent. right? And so as your heart rate rhythm becomes steady and consistent, that signals to your brain, everything's safe. Let's bring down the cortisol levels. Let's bring down adrenaline levels. Let's create that sense of ease in your body, because that's what you're signaling by way of your breath. So go back to that number of breaths for the course of your lifetime. As we slow and deepen the breath, and you're creating those internal signals and effects, all of those effects lend to you being healthier, slower rate of aging of your cells, blood pressure going down, energy levels coming up. So it's not just a wild idea that the yogis had, it's actually based in conventional understanding of the impact of the breath on your stress levels, on your vital organs, right? So that's pretty incredible. So if you think about it, the deeper you breathe, the better you feel. The deeper you breathe, the longer you might live. And there's actual science behind it, as we've just uncovered there. So I could probably stop the episode there and you'd be like, yep, okay, I'm convinced I should breathe a little deeper. I should definitely grab that Breathe to Succeed breathwork bundle you've been talking about, Megan. But I have a little more for you because you know I'm extra. So let's talk about how the breath is like the Swiss Army knife of life. The reality is, just to bring yourself into that steady rhythm, right? Think of it like waves on the ocean, nice and easy, nice and slow. Or if you've ever seen a heart rate monitor and it just goes beep, 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 beep. That's what happens when we regulate the breath that way. And that's if you are feeling like you just want to come into that nice, steady state. You can even the breath. So you can practice that steady rhythm of the breath, counting for 4 counts as you breathe into your belly, 4 counts as you breathe out, right? And so even just that, bringing the breath to that steady rhythm, which is called sama vriti. So sama is the root word for same, vriti is fluctuation. So there's just that evenness to the breath, creates that coherence, right? So this is a breathing pattern that's been studied by incredible organizations around the world, including the Heart Math Institute, who look at the impact of the breath and this steady, coherent or consistent or samavriti rhythm on our overall function, on your inner state, on the ability to create an expansive frequency to your body. Because yes, as much as they're into the science is that you have an electromagnetic impact on the world by way of your inner state, right? Your heart has a measurable frequency to it, which, you know, depending on how grounded and centered and coherent you are, can be measured up to 6 feet around you, right? So that's your vibe, if you will, from a science perspective, the electromagnetic frequency that you're giving off. Same, right? Isn't that cool? Like the ancients knew it. Now science is really validating it as far as the impact on your longevity, your brain function, your organ function, all of those things are, we're talking about the same thing here. We might be using different words, but we're all talking about the same thing. And so that's just one that's like across the board, very beneficial. So then think about it, the breath being the #1 tool to reduce your stress level quickly, right? And you probably felt that in that, you know, those 3 deep diaphragmatic breaths. And so to review, your diaphragm is a dome-shaped muscle that goes all the way around your rib cage, at the bottom of your rib cage. And as we breathe in, it moves down, it contracts down into the belly and actually massages your abdominal organs when we breathe in. And so that's why your belly expands. Like think of when you watch a baby sleeping, or when you watch a baby sleeping, you can almost see their whole body breathing in and out. And so as we breathe out, it relaxes and it actually domes back up and it massages the outer layer of your heart. So when you breathe deeply, not only are you doing all the things we just talked about, but you're actually massaging your abdominal organs and your heart. So deep diaphragmatic breathing is actually really beneficial for your actual boom, 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 the lub dub of the actual musculature of the organ of your heart. Psst. Again, like, hi, is that not the coolest thing ever? I don't know about you, I just think that's cool. So that's where we can start to play with the breath. And that's where we can look at it as this sort of tool that you can use in a variety of different ways. And so going back to how it's used to lower your stress levels, it's actually used as a very important tool for people who are dealing or navigating PTSA, formerly known as PTSD, right? Post-traumatic stress disorder, but they've recognized it as an adaptation or a way to handle something that happened in someone's life. So it's not being called a disorder anymore, but it's a survival technique, right? It's our ability to move beyond what happened in that moment, right? That traumatic incident that happened, which as a definition, trauma can be anything from, something very small to a massive, large scale, right? And so it's something that's too much, too fast, too soon for the nervous system is traumatic on that scale. So there's adaptations to that. And so trauma it's not so much it can be part of our memory, but it's more how we react to something in the future. And so as we're experiencing triggers or moving through that PTSA, one of the tools that is commonly and very highly used is soft belly breathing. And so using the breath to soothe and slow ourselves down and to bring your focus out of the mind and into your body to create safety in that moment and remind your system that in this moment, if you're having a memory or you're getting triggered, or even in a moment of a very highly stressful situation, you're using the breath to stay very centered and focused. So of course, that's impactful in a stressful situation, right? To use the breath to keep yourself centered, to keep yourself focused. Because when we're under stress or when we're in a challenging moment, your body's very much in a survival mechanism and mode, right? And so, that situation aside, right? Of course, there's survival mechanisms that kick in, fight, flight, freeze, and fawn to navigate and get out of that situation. But once we've moved beyond that and we're just in our run of the mill average every day, our body reacts the same way to stressors now, like to the ping of an email notification that you weren't expecting and you get tripped up and you get freaked out. It reacts the same way to the way that our ancestors' nervous systems reacted to the, Tyrannosaurus Rex and the, saber-toothed tiger. We're wired the same way. So when we're experiencing a stressful situation and we can use the breath to center and regulate ourselves to do everything we talked about earlier in the episode, you take control, right? You take control by shifting yourself into a centered state. And then we shift out of that stress or survival state, which is the amygdala activation center. So that's the survival center of the nervous system in the brain, part of it in the brain. And we bring your prefrontal cortex back online, which is your higher functioning center part of the brain. Creativity, imagination, focus, memory, inspiration, all of that is activated in that part of the brain. So when we're navigating stressful moments and we use the breath, mentally, that's what's happening. And so that keeping that in mind, right? And as we have these moments of getting triggered and we go back to that soft belly breathing, you literally take control of the moment by where you place your focus. And you are regulating the breath because you have control over that, right? And you have control over what you're focusing on. Although your mind will tell you different, you know that using this tool to smooth out the breath does everything we just talked about, and it has those beautiful internal effects on you. So that is, to use it in a potentially triggered moment or potentially triggered situation. But what about if you're feeling really anxious, right? If we are feeling really wound up and we're feeling really frantic, then we want to focus on using the exhalation, because the qualities of the exhalation are a drawing inwards, a contracting, a grounding, a centering quality to it. That's what the exhalation helps us to do. So if you're feeling really wound up and frantic, we want to focus on smoothing out the exhalation, elongate, lengthen the exhalation, because that begins to slow the heart rate rhythm. It begins to slow the breath rhythm, which then of course has beautiful effects for the elasticity of your lungs. It helps to decrease your blood pressure. increases blood flow to the lower part of the lungs, which is where oxygen and carbon dioxide exchange happens. And so that's, you can use the breath to really ground you. But what about when you're feeling tired? You can use the inhalation because it's very uplifting, it's very expansive, it brings us, it lifts us up, right? If you feel that sense of expansion that comes when we breathe in. And so there's so many different ways that you can play with the breath. There's so many different types of pranayama or breath control, right? Because the breath carries the pranic energy, the life force energy. So there's lots of different ways that we can use the breath. What about if you're feeling, you know, really uninspired and it feels like your brain is just muted? Well, then there's ways that we can activate the brain, activate different parts of the brain to go back into that sense of aliveness, of awakeness, of creativity. So it's really, it's such a versatile tool and it's so underrated. And then the last thing that I'll say about it is, because when you're, you know, you're counting the breath rate, or you're focusing on where you feel it, or you're, you know, you're using it in a really sharp and short, hard to say, in a really intentional sort of pattern that we do in these different styles of breath, then you're really focusing your mind. So if you're someone like me who has a hard time just sitting there and meditating in a classic traditional sense of just watching the breath move in and out in that normal, regulated, smooth Samavriti pattern, or finds that when you go to sit down to meditate, you're just mentally pacing back and forth, and it just feels like you're writing your to-do list and you're like a squirrel that drank too much Pepsi. I don't know that they ever do that, but you know what I'm feeling, that like ding, 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 sort of vibe. And so if that's your experience of meditation, like it was mine in the past until I discovered breath work, you might find that breath work is a tool, is an entry point into meditation. And for many of us who are very, you know, need to do something in the moment, or we have a really highly active personality, or you find that your brain is just, you know, all over the place, or you couldn't get it to sit still for the life of you, it's a tool, right? It's a tool to learn to train the ability to hold your mind in one position. It's a tool to be able to take command of your mind and be in control of it rather than it being in control of you. And breath work is kind of like the equivalent of giving a puppy a new toy, right? You give the puppy a toy, you give it something to do, and so it entertains itself for a little while. And then as you're doing the breath work and you're focused on it and you're observing yourself in the moment, and as you're continually doing the breath, and you're like, whoops, I'm distracted. I'm pretending to do my breath, but I'm actually thinking about the funnel that I'm creating for my Black Friday promotion, you know, and so then we go back to the breath, right? Rather than just sitting there and being still, you're using a tool, because that's what tools are for, right? Tools are no good if they're in the box on the shelf. And so go back to our puppy analogy, you've given the puppy something to do, something to play with, and you go back and check on it, right? Like you're doing in your meditation, you're aware of where your focus is. You go back and you check on the puppy, and the puppy's nowhere to be found, and it's over there scratching on the wall, right? Your mind is very similar. So what we're doing here is we're just constantly bringing it back over, telling it to sit and stay and focus on the breath. And then, you know, inevitably it will wander around. And then next time you look over and it's peeing on the carpet, right? And the puppy, not your mind. Who knows, right? And so really just keep in mind that there's so many different ways that you can use this incredibly versatile tool, especially in a practical way, right? And so, yes, you know, as much as it's part of the actual practice of yoga, and it's one of the limbs of the yoga practice, pranayama, that helps us to prepare for meditation, right? It's like the precursor to be able to sit still, is to bring ourselves into that steady state, is that there's really practical applications for this tool. And so that's, you know, what I wanted to remind you of and to share and to give you some insights into. And so inside the Breathe to Succeed breathwork bundle, there's 3 different power pauses. So 3 different breathwork practices, each with a totally different focus. So the first one is dropping into an ocean of calm, so deep that you'll make the Buddha proud. And so what is that one for? Well, maybe let's take a guess. When you're in the middle of your holiday promo and you are like, I'm so overwhelmed, I don't know what to do, and there's so many things that I don't know, and you're feeling that wound up, tighter than a ball of elastics. I don't know. I couldn't think of something that's wound up really tight really quickly. I'll come back to you on that. And when you're feeling that sort of wound up, frantic energy, the first one, ocean of calm, literally takes you. So I had one of our community members, Melissa, did it, and she said she started at a 1 and she finished at a 9. She said she was so zen, she was so blissed out. Yay. So then the second one is for the moments in this holiday hecticness when you're like, I want to have a promo, but I have no idea, and I'm trying to figure something out, or you're feeling that mental block and you're just kind of feeling like, there's things you need to do, but for the life of you, you can't get your brain to boot up because it's just over there like, when you need it to go and be coming up with ideas and actually, doing something. Because it happens, right? And all the coffee in the world, maybe not helping. So the second power pause that you'll get inside the breathe to succeed is tap into flow. So you can drop into that state of creativity faster than you can open your laptop and turn on ChatGPT and, rewrite some of that generic woof that comes out of it sometimes. Faster than you can do that, you'll be tapping into flow using this power pause session. And then the third one, and these are all like each one you're going to use there's over the course of the 3 sessions, you're going to get to experience 9 different ways to use the breath, right? And so then the final session is all about helping you to stay merry and bright. So on those moments when you're in the like sad elf feels and you're just kind of not feeling it, that's the one to go to. And so that one's bringing in different tools like the breath of joy and bringing in that effervescence to your body by way of the breath. So make sure to grab the Breathe to Succeed bundle. It's only $11. It's a crazy awesome deal because I want you to be able to navigate the hecticness of the holiday season smoother than Santa on his sleigh, because these tools literally will help you to do that. So make sure to grab that. It's only available until 11/11 and it's only $11. Yes, I love my angel numbers, and you get lifetime access. So can't wait to breathe with you. Thank you for being part of this incredible community and have a beautiful rest of your day. Take good care. Bye-bye.